What to expect on your coaching job interview.
Get strong.
Okay, so you've made it through the stack of resumes. Last job I had over 700 applicants, 700 resumes for that job. And you've done it. You've made it past that stage. So now it's off to the interview part. And I think in coaching, there's not a whole lot of HR kind of education that goes into that process, and so coaches or administrators, they're not always the best at interviewing, and coaches for sure are not the best at being interviewed. And so I'm gonna lay out what it should be, what should happen on that interview, what types of questions they should ask. And then from there, you can kind of reverse engineer how you can best prepare. So first thing that you want to do if you're going to be interviewing somebody is that you want to create really just a list of all the competencies, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that are going to be required to do the job. List that out, and essentially you're going to want to create 3 types of questions for each of those skills. All right, so first you're going to do what's called a behavioral type of question. This is where you're drawing on past experiences and having them give specific examples of how they responded or how they handled a specific type of situation. So for example, type of behavioral question would be if you've ever worked with a coach that wouldn't get their team to the weight room on time, and how you've handled that in the past. Did you reach out to them and give them several opportunities through call, through text, through email? Did you CC a sports supervisor or the head strength coach? It could also be, what if you're a volleyball coach, you're an assistant volleyball coach, and you don't agree maybe with the philosophy of the head coach? How did you go about handling that situation? So you're going to give specific examples of how you manage that type of situation and what your thought process was, because I want to know, as somebody that's hiring you, how you're going to process that type of information. The second type of question is a situational question. This is either hypothetical or a real life example of how you would handle a situation as well. So there needs to be a healthy balance of autonomy and oversight in your answer there. As a leader, if you're an administrator, you never want somebody that just says, "Hey, I'm gonna exclude you completely. I'm gonna keep it completely off your plate," because there's just not that much trust that goes on in most places. And so you want to answer in a way that, "Hey, I'm gonna keep as much off your plate as I can. I'm gonna give you the highlights. I'm always gonna run something past you, but here is basically how I would handle that type of situation." So an example of a situational type of question would be, how would you handle an athlete that told you to F off at halftime? How would you handle that type of situation? And then maybe use a step-by-step type of process, or maybe some examples of things that you've done in the past. You could draw from past athletes and how maybe you managed that situation and ended up making it a positive in the end. Another type of question that would be in there would be if you were up, in front of the board. Maybe you're an offensive coordinator and you're meeting and interviewing with the offensive staff, or you're a tight ends coach and you're meeting with the offensive staff and you're talking through past concepts, and you're going to go through how you would teach maybe a zone, and then have everybody kind of shoot at you, philosophy and strength and conditioning, all those types of things. So how you're able to handle that situation would be an example of a situational question. And then lastly, you can definitely expect some general type questions. These again could be behavioral, situational, where you're drawing upon past experiences, or it's a hypothetical, or it could be a real life situation. So I know for me, character is super important. I want to make sure that I ask questions about character. So I would ask things like, what are some things that are of importance to you outside of coaching? Is it your family? Is it your faith? Is it whatever? I think you should expect those types of questions. And I think it's important for you to also lay out what's important to you in your life. If you're not getting these types of questions, then it's a chance for you to lead them down that path. Loyalty, I would expect questions like, what did you think of your last boss? Or maybe if you were, you listed 3 different references on your resume, but I knew that you had worked at a 4th place. What did what would that coach say about you? Or if I reached out to him, or what do you think about that coach? And oftentimes you can get people tripped up there by them kind of giving backhanded compliments or those types of things. So I want to know, what you're going to say about me when you go to leave our situation. And then lastly, I'm going to evaluate work ethic. I want to know, are you a grinder? Are you somebody that is going to roll your sleeves up when there's a task that needs done? Are you going to pitch in when you don't have to? So I'm notorious for, maybe interviewing a staff member or a potential staff member, telling the staff, hey, look, we need to move the weight room to the other side of the weight room, or we need to move these plates to the outside, or something along those lines, and have everybody be doing that with the exception of the person that's the candidate. I would put them in a situation where they had to decide whether or not they were going to sit there and wait for me to return, or if they were going to roll their sleeves up and jump in and pitch in. So that's an example of a situational question for something that's general. So again, you're going to be expected to answer behavioral, how you handle things in the past. You're going to be expected to answer situational questions, and you're going to be expected to answer general questions. And now the positive is this: as I mentioned at the beginning, most college coaches or coaches in general, most coaches haven't gone through some sort of HR training, and they're just trying to figure it out as well. They just want to know if they can have a working relationship with you. So if you flip this around, and when you're getting presented with the typical kind of, what are your strengths type questions, or what are your weaknesses type questions, you can steer that conversation down this flow of behavioral and drawing upon past experiences, and situational, where you might even encourage, hey, look, let me get up on the whiteboard and show you what I'm talking about. Or, really bringing in work ethic or loyalty or character type examples into your answers. So it's a surefire way to kind of stand out in a competitive marketplace. And now that you're in that interview process, you definitely have a great chance at these positions. But as I'll always say, and I always tell our staff, just because you're interviewing for a job doesn't mean it's the right job for you. You need to make sure you're going and evaluating it every bit as much as they're evaluating you. So make sure it's a great fit culturally, make sure it's a great fit for your family, and by going through and kind of making sure that you're doing your due diligence by helping shape that interview, you'll make sure that's the right place. So hope that helps. If you like these types of videos, please subscribe and hit the little notification bell, like it. It helps me kind of spread the message to other coaches. And then I'd like to hear some of your favorite interview questions that you've gotten, things that have either really tripped you up, or things that you feel like are some really bad ones, down in the comments below. So appreciate you guys. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later.